action. Anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking.
Back at it again with another shade of blue. We are the KC Soccer Journal. My name is Cody Bradley. Thad Bell and Mike Kuhn are here with me. Sunday evening, off week for Sporting KC, but we had U.S. men's national team in action, Poch's first game, and the Current secured a home playoff game. So we've got some stuff to talk about, even though it was an off week. It was kind of good to not have to watch Sporting KC lose this weekend. And it was good to watch the U.S. men's national team get a 2-0 win over Panama, Thad.
It was. I enjoyed seeing Busio get the start. I thought he played really well.
Hell yeah.
I don't want to get too excited about a 2-0 win over Panama because that's pretty normal for the national team, except, I mean, they've, out of their last 6, they've won 4 of them by multiple goals over Panama. So that's not that important, although it's just the one game that they lost to in Copa that was really a bummer.
Right. We can handle CONCACAF and Panama and all of that. The hump we're hoping Poch can get us over is beating European competition, which we seem to struggle with. But yeah, I don't think anyone's getting too excited over this game, but it was exciting watching this game because there is a new feel. It just feels like all bright lights ahead of us. Only good things are coming, and you know they did look good in the first game for Poch, Mike.
No, I felt they looked good, and I mean, you always have that general positivity when you have a new coach come in, especially one that comes with, I guess, the pedigree in this situation that is brought from that. So it's nice to have some optimism, I guess, about the U.S. national team for the first time in a little while.
Yeah, they were playing with some swag. I know they like to do back heels and they can play clever and pretty even before Poch, but it just, again, the whole thing had a different vibe last night. Some of those sequences just, they feel more real knowing that Poch had a hand in making this whole thing come together. It feels more real, and it was a good night for me. I liked it.
Did you hear Jedi's response when he was asked what was the difference between this and the last game against Panama?
I did not.
He said, we didn't get anybody sent off.
Nice. Of course, he was the one that was sent off in the Copa.
No, that was Weah.
Oh, who'd you say?
Jedi.
Oh, yeah. Okay, nice. Okay. Yes, it was a good game last night. It was his first one. They are going to play Mexico on Tuesday. But it's just good having Poch here, not just for the vibes, but that he's also already giving us really good audio.
He is, man. I try to be a little level-headed on all these things and not say, oh, Pochettino's going to be great, he's going to be amazing, because I didn't think Berhalter was as bad as a lot of people thought. However, I love the way he talks about certain things, so I do appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a serious line from him. He can speak eloquently about the game. It's very interesting listening to him talk about it and tactics and all of that, but I'm going to play this really goofy one that I found funny.
You know, people sometimes say, no, that is my philosophy, my idea, and I'm going to die with my idea. No, I want to live because life is, it's amazing. I want to be clever and I want to win. I don't want to die.
He was being asked about playing out of the back, or how dedicated are you going to be to that? Are you going to be strict on it? So
I don't want to die.
Thad, you have in here Poch was being protective. Who was he being protective of?
Well, McKinney for one, Musa for two. McKinney because he came in with a little hurt and he's already been sent back. So he said he might play against Mexico and then he sent him home. Pulisic, he sent him home back to his home team. Pepe, I mean, Stefan, Fossey, they all went back because they've got their time. He doesn't want them to get strained.
Yeah,
he wants them to be healthy. So in that regard, and with Musa, he hasn't been getting a lot of playing time. So he tried to put him in a spot where he would be not as responsible for being as a 100% two-way player. He would have a little more leeway to just be in the attack more often and come from the wing instead of being in the midfield. So I do like that stuff about him.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Him coming in knowing that all of our top players seem to get hurt all of the time. It's good to see. I don't know if this is a fix, but it is good to see that it is clearly something on his mind that he's thinking about.
What do you think of Busio and Morris there in the midfield?
I liked what I saw of it. I mean, again, it's a friendly. It's the first friendly of the regime. So, I mean, I hesitate to get too excited about it because of the fact that it's early and it's still trying to get things in place. But all the signs were there for a improvement of the team and an improvement of the situation for the national team, which I think is something we've all desperately wanted out of the national team over the last couple of years.
Yeah, Thad, I think he just saw a lot of those guys on that list that you mentioned that were sent home. I think he just saw what he needed to see from them. Pulisic looked good. He got an assist. Musa scored a goal, a beautiful goal. So I like that move. I like that he's not trying to have them all get hurt in this disgusting game against Mexico, as it always is against Mexico. So it's a good idea. I like this a lot. Another thing this week was Tim Ream on his podcast, I'm not actually sure where this came from, but he was speaking about the training under Pep and, their first time as a team together under him. And he said a lot of things that I really liked, but of course the one little bit that everyone honed in on was that he said they practiced for 2 hours and it was the longest practice that he had ever had in his 14 years with the national team. Now, yeah, that seems weird. I'm sorry, but in 14 years, Thad, they never once had to go 2 hours.
I could believe it, man, because they are so restrictive on so much of that stuff. I can't. I mean, maybe he's done it in 14 years, but a lot of those practices are pretty short. They come in, they do the warm up, they do this, they do that, they do a little exercise, little drills, and they're done. And yep. I think that Poch was just trying to make sure that everybody was getting what he was trying to preach. Maybe not. Maybe they weren't going hard for 2 hours. I watched video of they do the B-roll of practices and stuff when they send out video every couple days, and none of it looked anything too out of the ordinary. But again, they don't show a lot in those. So
I'm not doubting Tim Ream, but you can't tell me again with World Cup practices ahead of the World Cup, you're not going 2 hours.
That's what I was
in the lead
thinking.
up to the World Cup, you're not having a 2 hour, an intense 2 hour session ahead of the World Cup in that 2-week camp before the World Cup, basically.
And really, that's the only time it could happen, because that is saying on these other camps that they do where they come in before friendlies like that, that is what it is. But yeah, they're together a month ahead of the World Cup. They're doing real training there. They're all staying somewhere together there. Get on that field.
My one thought on that, though, is perhaps with Tim Ream, it's a little bit different because he might be on the early bird special, the blue plate, senior time, special. You don't have to go as long as the other guys. I'm not sure.
No, I really loved this from Tim Ream. It was insightful. He literally everything he said other than that they hadn't practiced for 2 hours in 14 years was perfect. He's saying things like the players want to listen to him, that he's commanding a respect, the feeling of all the players, the vibes in the camp is great. So I'm loving every second of this. And even if all those guys went home, I think they can still take it to Mexico on Tuesday.
I'm not sure who they have left to take it with, though.
They got 11 men. There's 11 guys out there. Yeah, Josh Sargent, that's interesting because it sounds like Poch has identified him as the one that the U.S. should lean into. And Pepe also came off the bench in that game. He got a goal himself. Had to go right through the keeper's legs, but he scored it.
They do have 20 players left in the camp after they release those guys to go back home. So 3 of them are keepers, though.
I'm not confident in any of them.
No Schulte, no Matt Turner. Like, you're not confident in any of those keepers?
No, I'm not. I'm really not. I've always liked Matt Turner. He seems to perform well in that shirt, but I think he's leaking confidence.
I'll go back to your comment about Sargent because I saw a stat that I was pulling back up real quick while you were talking. 41 players have scored for the U.S. since the last time Sargent scored a goal for the United States. 41 players.
Wow. That's shocking.
Yeah. Well, yes, he hasn't been in the national team a lot, but that's a lot of players that have scored for the U.S. team. And Sargent has been great for Norwich this year. He's been probably their best player. But it's insane to me, the idea that we're basing it around him right now when just the lack of form at the national team level is not where it is at the club, which is another thing that Poch had mentioned in the lead up to this. Poch had mentioned in the lead up to this game with regards to players that are in Europe that may not be playing are behind players in MLS. And I could just hear some of the people who have negative opinions on MLS. I could hear their screams, I guess, is a nice way of playing it.
No, I think they have to swallow it. They just have to accept it because Poch is not one of these guys. Poch is one of the best in the world. You're just having to disagree with Poch at that point.
I've already seen that argument made is that he's forced to say that because he's paid by MLS.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I've already seen that in social.
It is. Yeah, I expected that. It's just it's the same thing that we've heard from other U.S. national team coaches. It's just now someone that crowd can't disagree with as easily because he doesn't have the background in MLS.
And because he's somebody they argued to get.
Yes.
It wasn't a Klinsmann. It wasn't a Berhalter. It wasn't the interims and here and there. It was a guy who has a international pedigree, at least club-wise.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about the current. All right, Thad. 1-0 win over Bay FC. Temwa Chawinga scored again because she always does. She is inevitable.
19 goals, man. That's impressive. Sets the new NWSL single season scoring record over top of Sam Kerr. Yeah, I'm tongue twisted at times.
Oh, you nailed it.
Yeah, finally got it. But Temwa, man, what's really loved about this one is that it wasn't like a run in on the goalie and poke it past her. It was fend off 5 defenders and launch it from 20 some odd yards out.
Launched it. Yes, this was not a patented Temwa Chawinga goal. It was really good to see. And actually, on that note, Vlatko was talking about that goal. And it's just really good to hear, like, he's having fun in there. He's genuinely happy. He talked to her about scoring a goal like this, and she did it. So let's listen to this. This is fun to hear from Vlatko.
Yeah, I thought that was an incredible goal. And obviously, it's an important goal for Temwa. It's an important goal for this league. Breaks the record that has been posted about 5 years ago. And with that kind of goal, it was just amazing. I don't know. I was so happy for Temwa. One other thing that made me happy is we know that teams now are trying to close her down and close the space down close the area where she gets most of her chances. So we spent a little bit of time working on getting shots from distance, getting shots from outside of the box, and she went out and hit a bomb. So it was so cool. So I'm so happy for her.
Man, that is just really great to hear. And it seems crazy that They're saying the rest of the league was maybe starting to figure out how to defend Temwa Chawinga in some way, the one aspect, one thing you can do to limit her. And then, no, you can't do that. She's also got roaring screamers from however far out this was.
In Temwa's post-game presser availability, she talked about how Lola Bonta and Vanessa DiBernardo had helped her become a better player here in the NWSL, showing her things to do that sort of just become a better player and be able to compete in this league. And I think she's really competing in this league. Good job, lady.
Competing, yeah. Yeah, breaking records is competing, I would say.
I mean, so I look at it from the aspect of with Flacco's quote there and about how the league is trying to adjust to her. Like, I think of the old Sports Center adage of you can't stop him, you can only hope to contain him.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Chawinga. Like, there was a Opta stat that I saw today. She's scored in 16 different games this year. Her 19 goals have come in 16 different games, 4 more than any other player has had in a single season.
Oh, wow.
In the NWSL.
Another stat.
And she's scored in 12 of her last 13 league appearances. So teams may be trying to stop her, but they're not succeeding. They're just not. I know it was talked about last week, but she only needs to score against San Diego next week to score against every team in one season.
Crazy. That was a really good stat. Was that the Mike stat? I didn't
Yes.
I didn't play the sounder or anything. I didn't get to play your music to set up the Mike stat, but that was a beautiful Mike stat. We've had 2 in this episode already. Look at that. So this win secured, how about this? Last week, they secured the playoffs. This past weekend, they secured one home playoff game. And the next step, Thad, is to jump into second place and secure home field advantage all the way through the playoffs.
That's what they need to do. They need to win those last 2 games and hope that Gotham and Washington falter a little bit. One of them still has Orlando to play.
Yes, and the other has 2 very tough games. So I think all we need is a draw from both of those teams in their final 2 matches. And yeah, like you said, Orlando is in there and 2 other top teams. So I think it's going to happen. I think this is going to happen. We're going to be home all the way through the playoffs and then play at the neutral site of our home stadium for the final. And hopefully against Orlando.
Hey, Orlando finally lost a game.
They did?
Oh.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Last weekend.
Yeah. They lost on Friday night. They lost at Portland 2-0.
Yep. The immaculate season is done.
In Orlando's defense, they did rotate a lot of their squad for that game. So yes, but yeah, they did rotate quite a bit for the game, from my understanding.
Yeah, don't give them any slack, man. Don't let them off the hook. They would not have let Kansas City off the hook if that had been the reversed. So screw them.
I do hope Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying Kansas City has 2 games left, 1 at home, 1 on the road. At home against San Diego, the very struggling front office of San Diego, and then on the road at Chicago.
Can we real quick just give an apology to Chicago? Because their last 3 games are Gotham, Washington, and KC.
Yikes.
Those are their last 3 games. And they lost to Gotham 2-0, but then they play Washington, and then they end the season with Kansas City. So Chicago does not have a happy ending to the season, it seems like.
We need them to eke out a draw in one of those very specific games there. And
we can have them eke out a draw against Washington.
Yeah.
And Gotham can get a draw with Orlando. Both of those games are next weekend. Let the 2 of them get their draw out of the way, and then we go and we can get a result in Chicago and at home against San Diego.
Against the Landon Donovan-led San Diego Wave.
Right.
But also, just because we've mentioned San Diego, and I said the front office under fire, or however I phrased it, they have lawsuits against them for discrimination, abuse, harassment. I mean, you name it. There's some
Jeez.
stuff going against them. One of them being former U.S. national team coach Jill Ellis, and some other people there. And we also have the former KC current GM has landed there as well. Not that she's been named in anything that I know of, because I think this all happened before she was there. So I'm not trying to.
All of this allegedly happened.
Allegedly.
Right. And again, you got to be somewhat fair in how this goes. But man, that's
This league can't fix that stuff. I feel like it just keeps coming.
They can't get out of their own way.
Yeah. Dang.
so many problems.
Okay.
Right. Do we? Is it time for the next mic stat?
Oh, there you do have another one? That wasn't the mic stat that was listed?
No, that wasn't the mic stat that was listed. I had a specific one, and then the flow of our conversation led perfectly into me giving the other one, basically. So
Okay,
no,
well,
I guess you do. I guess you do have two tonight.
Okay, well let me play the sounder. That's definitely not just me doing it right now. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, mic stat. See, timing. You gotta work on the timing. You gotta flow right after I hit the sounder, and then you.
All right. Try it again. Okay. All right. Hit the button for the mic stat, Cody. The totally real button.
Mic stat.
Lo LaBonta made her 100th appearance in all competitions for the current against Bay FC on Saturday night.
The century mark.
Yes, the century mark in all competitions. She also became the all-time leader in league appearances for KC NWSL teams, meaning the current and FC KC. She passed Nicole Barnhart on that list.
Low, the Selly Queen, a staple of KC soccer. Okay, thank you for that mic stat. Wonderful mic stats tonight. Final thoughts here, Thad, before we wrap up?
On the current?
Yeah. Who's next week? I haven't even...
San Diego.
That's right. Yeah, San Diego.
We were just talking about that.
We just
one. Yeah, we just talked about that, man. Although I'm not sure you had it right in order then either. But anyway, it's San Diego's next, and one worrisome thing was that Bia Zanerato was kept out for foot injury this last week. This weekend. She'd come back and was recovering and starting to get back in shape. So hopefully that's not a serious thing. That's just a real rest and relax, rest and let her heal more. But
I meant to ask you, Thad, if that was an injury, like, was it a serious one, or was it one of those where if it was a playoff game, if it was a final sort of thing, would she have gotten to, would she have played situation, I guess?
I wish I could tell you. Hopefully I'll find out in the next couple of days. But by the time I found out that she was on that list, I was not able to get any more info. I've had a very busy couple days here.
All right. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. All right. I cannot believe we've made it this long, and my roommate hasn't come up to get me to fix this problem in our basement. We're just going to have to push through this segment 3 quickly here. I have an emergency in this house. There was water coming up from the sink in the basement. It was poopy water. It was disgusting. It's the worst. My house smells horrible. I can smell it right here. I'm 2 floors above that, and I can smell it right here, right now. It's the worst. Plumbing is the worst.
Everybody wanted to hear that. Everybody wanted that visual, that whatever a smelling version of a visual is as well. So
had to paint the picture.
Greatly appreciated.
Painting the picture, baby. Content.
Yeah, it was shitty content.
Oh my god.
Need the drum thing there. But don't bump.
Oh no. Okay, well, you want to talk about some more shitty content? Sporting KC?
Great segue.
They've got another game.
They also going down the drain?
They're down the drain already and about to be dumped in the ocean is what's happening with Sporting KC. FC Dallas on Saturday is the last game. Also meaningless for them. So they're just going to go there and run around the field for 90 minutes. Just have some fun.
Any expectations? I mean, Peter pretty much never does I'm just going to play the young guys in order to give them time. He's like going out to win. That's what he always says. Do you think
That's true.
anybody...
This is a real question. Someone should ask him that this week. Like, are we playing for the win here, Peter? We know your philosophy. We like that. But are we doing that this game? Are we fighting to the death?
We will. I just guarantee you that every other time we've asked that question, well, my philosophy, or he doesn't actually say philosophy, but, we're going for a win. We're going for a win.
Just don't be as bad as that game down in Dallas a few years ago that we lost 6-0. Let's not do that.
You're not going down there, so that's...
Well, no. I didn't go down to that game. That was the Eric Dick, his one game and goal game where they lost 6-0. So, no, that not that game. Although we do play... We played Dallas in the last game of the season a lot. And your comment about that made me realize that we played Dallas a lot in the last game of the season. So...
Well, it wasn't the last game.
Mike's stat.
It wasn't the last game of the season that I was referring to, because I was just referring to the Mike gets coaches fired in Dallas comment.
Well, if people want Peter Vermes fired, pay. I will accept a Venmo to go down to Dallas and get liquored up, I guess, if that's what people want. If people want to pay me to go down to Dallas.
This was too long ago. There's a whole lot less phone cameras back then, because I would have loved to have that.
Nobody wants that
as a gif of drunk Mike yelling whatever you were yelling at Adolfo to get fired.
There was a lot yelled at Adolfo that day. There was a lot.
This show needs a Vermes impression. I've worked on it. I've workshopped it a couple times. But I'm not good at it. He doesn't have something distinct enough. He has a slight hint of a lisp, and he says, look, I told my guys. That's what he says that a lot. That's a phrase that you can always go back to. But we need to work on this. You think David can do impressions, Thad?
I think David is an impression.
He's a caricature.
The one thing with Peter is it seems like every year I won't say he has a new catchphrase, but
you're right.
Like almost every year, 1 year it's every roll of the ball, every it's sporting fit, it's whatever, he's just got a different one almost every year. So we got to start next year and figure it out in the first couple games, right, and then play into that aspect of it. I don't know. I mean, we should have a contest. Each one of us try to do an impression and then take a vote and see who's the closest. And from that point on, we are the Saturday Night Live player of Peter Vermes.
I'm going to study some tape. I'm going to work on this. See if I can come up with one for him. Because we need a lot. Thad just tried one. He didn't do an impression, but he was speaking for Vermes. And so, we need, in place of that, we really need a good Vermes impression. I've tried to do that with a lot of players. It's just hard. Because sometimes if I'm trying to do an impression, there's a lot of foreign players, and then I'm just making fun of a foreign person's accent, and that doesn't work. I don't want to do that. But Vermes is fair game, I think.
You could just kind of spout gibberish and be Johnny Russell, but then again, you may not have that opportunity next year.
Yeah, that feels like low-hanging fruit a little bit, making fun of the Scottish guy, and you can barely understand him. I don't know.
Well, what's funny is a couple years ago, there was a play at my daughter's high school, when she was still in high school. Maybe it was a year after. But anyway, there was a play there, and one of the guys was playing a Scottish hitman. And he was just doing all this crazy accent. And literally somebody in front of me goes, "Is that Johnny Russell?"
I remember his first season here. This is actually good because we're just reminiscing about Johnny's career. It might be his last game coming up. In his first year, he was given the game ball or something like that. Vermes, in a team setting, Vermes gave something to Johnny, and he had kind of a heartfelt speech about arriving there and being supported of all the guys and how happy he is and all of that. It was very heartfelt, and they all started to clap when he was done, and then when the clapping faded, Ilya stood up and said, "And now in English."
Good.
I think that might have been when he scored his first goal, because they used to give the players when they scored their first goal a game ball.
Yeah.
So I think that's the situation you're referring to.
Probably right.
Or when he tried to start the fight with, was it Vancouver?
Oh yeah. That's when he cemented himself.
That was early on in his time here.
Yeah, it was. Thad, the Roo men had a big win.
They did. 1-0 win over the nationally ranked Denver, number 3 nationally ranked Denver.
Third ranked team in the country. Where did this come from? Have they been playing really well? Was there a hint that they, were playing at a level that they could compete with this team? Where did this come from? I don't know anything about the UMKC Roos soccer team.
I think they've steadily progressed under the coach Ryan Poor, if anybody remembers that name. That should be another Mike stat popped out there.
Poor, like he's poor and doesn't have money, or he's pouring something.
That's his last name.
P-O-R-E.
Right.
That's his last name.
Yeah, I know.
P-O-R-E.
I was
so neither one. Neither one.
Okay, I was just looking for a joke there. I want to know which kind of joke to make. I need to know the spelling. We'll get back to you.
I guess it's like a pore, like a skin pore, technically. Is that how that type of pore is spelled? I have no clue. I suck at English.
Yeah, see, I forgot that there was a third pore. I didn't even consider the third pore. Thank you for that. The pore in the skin.
That was a poor attempt at
there it
humor.
is. There we go. See, we got a joke out of it. But it was the wrong kind of pore, so that's why.
Muy menor. Muy menor.
So
I can't speak in 2 languages now.
So tell us something about the Roos team.
I think they've been better each year that he's been the coach. They still have struggled at times, but I think they're 7-2-3 and 2-0-1 in their league right now.
Okay, yeah.
So they've hopefully that means good for them. Game-winning goal was from Eli Kasoka.
7-0-3. So when I hear it, I always forget where the tie is. If I'm looking at it, I know what the tie is. So 7-0-3 is 7 wins, 0 losses, and 3 draws.
7-2-3 overall this season. 2-0-1 in league play.
Okay, I see. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and the women had been really good in non-conference play, but once they hit conference, they've been struggling.
That's a good win, though. That's a good win for the resume, right? Because they do a 64-team tournament like basketball at the end of the year.
Yeah, they could
48.
Oh, 48. Okay, thank you. Mike Stat.
Are you just going to say that anytime I spout numbers?
Mycopedia, whichever one. Mycopedia is harder to say.
That was more Mycopedia than it was Mike Stat, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
That was information, not like a hardcore stat keeping thing. Which nobody does more hardcore stats than Mike. So
that's why we always have him here. He is the context without us having to look it up.
I bet there's a stat on how many times people have corrected the local soccer teams, and I'm pretty sure Mike is way above and beyond everybody else in that.
He's leading that category.
Yes, and whether or not they love it, but it's still true.
I will say, when there are weeks that I'm not on the podcast, I do go back to my days when I would come home from school and watch PTI, and then you would have Tony Reale doing his stat boy thing for Pardon the Interruption. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm correcting that. I'm correcting that. I'm correcting this third thing that you guys said that's not right. So it's like,
okay,
in my head,
this.
I'm like...
We should do this. Every week, you're going to submit a list of everything we got wrong or partially right, partially incorrect. And then we will read those the next week to make sure we are always giving accurate information.
I have that list because he DMs me those problems.
I do tend to DM Thad with some tips of, hey, this was wrong this week.
Well, he's not ever sharing those. He doesn't pass that along.
It's after I listen, so it's more
pointless.
of a joke when I send it to him.
Yeah, and some of it I will say I have caught some of that and just not corrected it because it's not worth stopping it in the middle of the bits. But Mike catches it, doesn't care. Screw it. Get it right.
It might take a second for him to get out the words of his thought, but it is always a brilliant thought or insightful in some way. You just gotta wait for it. But it eventually comes, and it's always great.
Although the more he drinks, the faster it comes.
That's true.
Probably,
That's true. But he
probably
didn't-
true of a lot of things.
I watched him. Oh, God. Oh, God. I did watch him open a beer, but so that means he wasn't drinking. The alcohol had yet to kick in, so he had only just started whenever.
You don't know he wasn't drinking before the show.
That's true, but it was a clean, empty glass. It didn't look like there had been a beer poured in there before. It's a very
Right,
dark
Mike?
beer that you're drinking. I don't do dark beers like that. What is it?
It's my last bottle of the 6 glass.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had gotten a six pack the other week and was finishing up my
He's
last bottle.
heavy drinking. He's doing some heavy drinking over there.
I have a birthday coming up this week.
6
God.
glass. The smokestack series will all put you on your ass. And actually, that's what my roommate, when he puked in the sink. See, this was on Monday. Yeah, we're going back to this. This was on Monday when the Royals and the Chiefs both played. So it was just very stimulating. He was drinking these beers that were gifted to him. The Space Camper, like a new Space Camper that's come out. If we have any Boulevard fans out there listening, it's a new Space Camper that came out. It's in these massive stadium-sized cans, and it's like 9.5%. And he was just throwing them back, and it did not end well for anyone in this house.
It hasn't ended yet.
And it is still continuing. But that's why he's down there at the moment, and I was able to get away for a podcast. And we laid one down. I thank you for getting this in. An off week, we got a good podcast in.
Well,
Even Robert
I will
bailed on us at the end.
I will say, if there is something else we want to talk about, Sporting did announce their end of season awards this past week.
That's not the end of the season yet.
It's not, but they announced it, so technically that's news that they announced who their end of season awards are.
Or do you have them in front of you?
Yeah, I have them right in front of me.
See, I should have just trusted you. If it was anyone else, I could trust. Anyone else in the show would have just brought that up and not had it ready, and I would ask them about it, and they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, hold on, let me look this up." Mike, give us the
right here.
season award winners, please.
MVP was Jake Davis, Offensive Player of the Year.
I voted for Jake for that.
I voted for Jake. I said on Twitter it was either Jake or Tommy were my selections for that. I would accept it, either one of them.
Are you allowed
Tommy?
to publicly post your votes? Don't they remove your vote in these if you publicly?
It's a fan vote. It's a fan vote. It's not a MLS specific one.
Not the
Mine
Major
says
League
mine's
Baseball.
media vote. Mine's media vote.
It's not the Major League
I'm
Baseball
not cool
Hall of
enough
Fame.
to get. I'm not cool enough to get the media vote. So,
Well, if you stop tweeting, you might be.
no, I don't want to. I like my stance at this point.
Mike will never stop tweeting.
They don't want me in the press box.
Because they know you know more than them about the history of this team.
I won't say that. Kurt knows.
No, I know. That was unfair to
Bart
Sam.
more than I do.
That's true, and it was unfair to Sam too. Sam is probably the only other human in the world that has like an Excel sheet and the whole thing that you have of the history of stats and every ball that was kicked.
They have like the services that give them a lot of that information, but they are remarkably good at a lot of that. So no doubt, Kurt and Sam are both really good at that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll continue through here.
Not necessarily their social media team though.
Hey,
them I correct regularly, and it's always it always hits right when they then have to delete the tweet and retweet it a different way after I post a correction.
The song.
The song did not get his first Canadian call up. Anyway, Tommy, Offensive Player of the Year. Melia, Defensive Player of the Year. The song, Newcomer of the Year. Tommy's second goal against Miami was the goal of the year. Melia,
banger.
that was my vote, was the Tommy goal against Miami.
Yep.
Melia against Colorado was save of the year on July 4th. And then the votes that weren't fan vote, Johnny got humanitarian. Agata won Golden Boot. Cruz was SKC2 Player of the Year. Tashantrick got the Academy Player of the Year.
Nailed that name too. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up watching his dad play for the Attack.
Say it again.
So.
Say it again.
Tashantrick?
He said it with confidence, Thad. Just leave it alone. It sounded good.
The T at the end.
I had it. It
sounds like a K over here, so maybe it's just my old ears.
Okay, give us that last one.
Sporting Arkansas was the sporting club affiliate of the year. So they're your end of season sporting awards.
Thad gave a very vigorous shake of the head for Defender of the Year at Melia. Who was your Defender of the Year, Thad?
Nobody's gonna like this.
Okay.
Kyrie Shelton.
You're gonna say
Kyrie.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I gave a long pause so you could jump in there and say it, and you still took forever.
Thad, you should. I'm making Thad write the article for this because I'm gonna go deal with all the poopy water. Thad, you should name the article Kyrie Shelton should have been the Defender of the Year for Sporting. That'll get clicks.
It will.
The thing is, I know you'll get the rage clicks from a segment of fans, but I would think a lot of fans at this point have liked Shelton's play. Like there are a number of people who have been very much Shelton needs to be bought out. Shelton shouldn't see the field. Who are like, he's not bad at right back.
I wonder how many of them were the ones that booed him on the field for us one time. So shameful. I still think about that.
I know.
Poor guy. Really hated that.
Not right.
The Vermees out chant is one thing. Angry fans, they pick someone, you chant whatever. That's one thing. I didn't like that really either. But the booing of Kyrie, man, that one hurts.
Unnecessary, man. He's not the one that picks which spot he plays or if he plays. I mean, if Peter walks into the stands and says, "Cody, are you too drunk to go out and play right back today?" No, you're going to say, "I'm good, coach. Put me in."
Yeah, I'm going to be on that field.
Right. And same for anybody who's on that team. They're going to go in if they get called. So that was totally unnecessary. But I went with Kyrie Shelton because nobody really stood out all year. And Kyrie has transformed into a more than serviceable right back. Took on some really good players this year. Jake Davis had done the same, but I think Kyrie fit the right back role a little bit better than Jake, and Jake already had an award. So in my book,
I think, and I'm not. Shelton was very good at right back. I have concerns going forward. The same because, and I'll go back to Jake Davis. Think about earlier in the year where Jake Davis struggled with the back post run. How often that happened with him in the early part of this season. It was regularly happening. And
resulting in goals.
Yes, and that's what I meant with the back post, marking the back post run. Right. I worry with more game tape if something similar will rear its head with regards to Shelton's play. That's my only concern with converting a non-right back to a right back position is what's going to be exposed with more game tape, basically. But as for Defender of the Year, I think I picked Rosero, but as you said, that nobody stood out. Nobody was that good. We allowed the third most goals in the league this year. So yeah. I'm never one to say don't give out an award at the end of the season because that is belittling to the people who were up for the award. But there were not a lot of really good candidates for Defender of the Year this year.
There were none. And again, everybody had their good moments.
Melia is a good candidate.
We allowed 64 goals and he allowed the vast majority of them.
I would argue the defenders in front of him allowed the vast majority of them.
He
and
allowed
more, they would have allowed
53
more.
of the 64. 53 of the 64 were on Melia. The last time he allowed that many was 2019.
Well, again, it was the defenders in front of him. The job of a defender is to prevent goals from being scored. He prevented more goals from being scored than anyone.
The job of the defender is to stop the shots. It's the job of the goalkeeper to stop the shots that do happen.
I think the beer's caught up to him.
No, it's the job
he
of the
said that
defender
succinctly.
to keep shots from happening. It's the job of the goalkeeper to stop the shots that actually happen.
No, I understand. I'm just.
No, Thad was
I
wrong.
always have a
You nailed
struggle
that.
with I struggle with having a keeper as the defender. I mean, I get it. I know why, but that's also I don't like it.
I mean, to be fair, that's Melia's third time winning Defender of the Year. Miola won it twice. As I go through my,
Just because it's happened before doesn't mean I like it.
Once Nielsen won it once. So yeah, so 3.
He's not
4,
looking at a
5,
screen. He's just going back
6,
through his head.
7. No, I'm looking at a screen.
No, he's just coming up with all of this. He's going through his encyclopedia in his head.
Although I will say, Melia split it with Zuzi one year, and this will get you
Converted
Thad,
right back.
Here we go.
Yeah, this will get
Tybo on it, Mike. Let's go.
This will get you Thad. In 2015, Matt Beasler split it with Sony Mustafar, a midfielder for Defender of the Year.
God. What?
D mid.
Yeah,
He was D mid.
There's a D in his name.
I'm just saying, if you're against the goalkeeper getting it, you shouldn't really be in favor of the midfielder getting it.
Sony
I think I'm more in
Mustafar.
favor of the D mid getting it than I am the keeper, but that's neither here nor there. The biggest reason I voted for Kyrie is he's the one defender that improved throughout the year.
Sony Mustafar.
I think that says more about the rest of the defenders than it does
I
Shelton.
don't disagree. Although I could say Volodar improved throughout the year too. I could say that.
You keeping
Actually,
him?
while we're looking at the defenders of the year, you want to know the most surprising one as I look at this list, other than Mustafar?
Yes, but hold on. I want Thad to say if he wants to keep Volodar or not.
Yes.
Okay, I like that. That was. I think that's different than you were at the beginning of the year, isn't it? I think we were not sure on him.
I think it's fair to change it over the course of the year. I think
Yeah, of
Volodar has
course.
done quite well. Shocking. You give a young player a string of games and they actually improve, and the silly mistakes that they make when they're a young player start to go away as they get more time. Shocking how that happens.
Well, yeah, you just have to stick through the mistakes that happen while he's figuring it out.
Yes, exactly. It's the same thing that I've said with Polskamp. If you're going to commit to Polskamp, commit to Polskamp. Be willing to learn through the mistakes. It's the same with any young player. You have to be willing to play through the mistakes that they make.
But not when you're trying to win every single game.
We're not trying to win every single game
Especially this one.
anymore.
All right, Mike, give us the surprising Defender of the Year name.
2016, Saad Abdul Salam won Defender of the Year.
Nice. I like both of these names we got to reference. Sony Mustafar and SAS.
Is that another just nobody else was able to really stand out here? 2016 wasn't that good, if I remember right. 2016,
if I remember right, I think that was the year where we did like the center back by committee, where that was the Nuno Andre Cuello, Matt Beasler, Iko Para, Lawrence Olam, Kevin Ellis, all playing center back at some point of the season. So pretty much it was a lack of good options. I think Abdul Salam might have gotten the most of any defender on the roster. So I think that was process of elimination.
Kevin Ellis. Good Lord. Thad, what is your word association with Saad Abdul Salam?
Double post.
The double post. Poor guy. That's what we all think of. Okay.
Yep.
Any final
You didn't
thoughts
deserve
here?
it.
Mike, thank you for joining. Thank you for all of the Mike stats. We even got some bonus ones.
always happy to help. And I mean, this is why I like the remote ones, because I can just like put my screen up with all my stats while we talk, and I can correct in real time.
Well, there's a computer in the studio too. Just don't let David sit there because he wastes it anyway.
And he cheats.
And
he cheats. If I try to pull out like hey, what's a trivia thing? You know, anybody know this?
He goes straight to the computer, straight to his phone, always cheating.
Always cheating, man. Friggin' lawyers.
Oh, the timing of that was perfect.
All right,
Dave, when you listen to this, let us know.
It'll prove if he listened or not. All right, thank you for listening. Go subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And we will be back next week for the first off-season pod of the year. Finally, we can put this season behind us. Dear God. Almost done. It's almost done.
I don't want to die.
The other side don't seem so tough, and 3 own goals ain't all that rough. Our skipper has just been sent off. Supporters strong have all gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this